All aboard. New tracks. All aboard.
Well, good evening. My name is Jim Kello. Welcome to New Tracks, where mentors help modelers build better. Thanks so much for coming this evening. We really appreciate it. We think we've got a great show for you. We hope you enjoy it and hope you come back often and tell your friends about us. If you're new to the show, please visit and subscribe to our website, newtracksmodeling.com. And you'll get a email that you'll have to reply to confirm your subscription. And once you are confirmed, then you'll immediately start getting the emails on all of our future shows and what our activities are going to be. If you are subscribed, you are eligible for our random drawings for prizes on some of our shows. This prize program is something new that we're trying. It's going to start on the first show, July the 21st. And Walters is the sponsor for that. And they're going to give a $50 discount off of an in-stock product, any product you want, from their website. You have to watch the show live, or or watch the video later so that you can find out the winning code and the name of the modeler who is drawn to receive the prize. That modeler must then send me an email with the winning code in it using the same email address that he signed up and subscribed to our website so that we can verify that he's eligible for the prize. You have to do this before or on July the 18th. So you have, in fact, one more day after today to subscribe to our website to be eligible to win the $50 prize from Walters. We're not going to do this every week or every show. We may do it every week. I don't know yet. But we're going to do it periodically to start. And Walters is the first company that wanted to do it for us, and I really do appreciate it. Their vice president of marketing is helping me a little bit in the marketing area for our shows, and this was her suggestion. So Karen from ECO, I really do appreciate your help and your idea, and most of all, I appreciate Walters sponsoring the first one again on July the 21st. I also want to mention that the closing date for the Walters Scholarship Program just passed. That ended on July the 15th. So all of the model railroaders who were high school graduates this year, I wish you the best of luck. If you entered that contest, you stand a chance to win 2 separate $2,500 scholarships from Walters to go to college in one of the STEM programs. So best of luck to everybody that entered that contest. I think that's really outstanding of Walters to do that. And when they do it next year, it may be bigger and better. I think it will be. And I really hope that a lot of model railroaders take a hard look at entering their contest, because if it's successful for Walters, then hopefully other companies will do it. And that'll be beneficial to young model railroaders for their college educations. To make sure your friends can subscribe and find out about us, the login information that you get, you're free to pass that on to your friends. We just ask you, please don't post it on any of the sites, digital sites, because we're concerned about hackers coming in and picking that information up. But to your friends, we welcome them and hope that you'll help us expand the program by passing the information to them. If you're wondering why the white spot on top of my head, I'm not going gray. I had a little minor surgery the other day, and that's still the bandage. Another topic I'd like to talk about is we need your help. It takes a tremendous amount of effort to put these shows on twice a week. And we've got a lot of dedicated modelers who are doing an outstanding job, in my opinion. We've had some people say, well, you're not doing it as professional as you should. We want you to do it more professional. Well, guys, we're all amateurs in this. We're all model railroaders, first and foremost. We're learning Zoom, we're learning YouTube, we're learning how to make videos. We're learning this as we go. And we're not quite experts yet. We'll get there, hopefully, but we're not there yet. We're doing the best we can. We need more help. If you'd like it to be more professional, the more help we have, the better it's going to be. And we're not asking for tremendous commitments. If you can give us a couple of hours or an hour here or there, that's what we need. We need a lot of people doing a little bit of work to really make this successful and to make it as professional as I want it to be. All the volunteers want it to be, and I know you want it to be. So we need your help and hope that you'll volunteer a little bit of your time. Again, my email, Ed, you can put my email up on the chat function. Please send me an email and let me know you're interested. And we'll talk and figure out exactly what you'd like to do and how often or how much time you might have to be able to help us with. Our next My Build is coming up July the 24th. The moderator for that is Jeremy Wyatt. And we're going to have two separate parts of that. One is the LaBelle kit that Bill Davis finished building last Wednesday. I'm a little frustrated because only two people built along with Bill, best I can tell. And so far, Jeremy tells me he hasn't received anything from either one of those modelers that they want to try to win the prize that Rick Steele of LaBelle is offering of another free kit to the person whose name is drawn from those who show us the model that they built along with Bill Davis. Then we're also going to have a separate segment on that show with the Hunterline kit. And that gives $50 off of the next kit that you buy from Hunterline if you're the lucky person that's drawn that night. This is not a contest for the best model. All this is everybody that shows has a chance to win the prize. And it's just a random drawing. Your names are thrown in a hat. One person wins. That's it. So, Jeremy, I will turn this over to you now. That's all the comments I've got about it, and we'll go from there.
Thanks, Jim. Well, I think you basically said it all. The next My Build is Saturday, July 24th. If you've got a project, completed or not, that you'd like to show what you've done or get some advice, please send me email. And the focus of this is clearly going to be all the modelers that have built the Hunterline kit. And maybe we'll get some from the LaBelle kit as well. So anyway, get in touch. I'll put my email in the chat link. Thanks, Jim.
Yeah, and Jerry and I were talking about maybe we ought to extend this into August and that kind of thing. But if there's only two modelers that are building the kit, and neither one of them have bothered to contact Jeremy yet, I hope that at least one of you do, because if one of you does, he's the winner. I mean, the prize is going to be awarded if somebody that's built along with Bill Davis shows up and shows us his model and what he's doing, whether it's finished or not. So, if you want another kit from LaBelle, this is an easy way to get it. And there's only two of you, as far as I know, unless There are others of you that have this kit in your storage where you acquired it previously and just hadn't built it yet and decided to pull it out of your storage and build along with Bill. I have no way of finding that out. I don't know how many of those people might be out there. So we hope that you'll participate in this. This is the last time we're going to do it this way. From now on, the My Bills, the one for August the 21st will be the one after this. That one's going to be just open to everybody. We won't have any special My Bill parts of these anymore. We're going to do kind of like what Rick Hunter suggested before, and let the manufacturer, if he wants to, do the My Build sections for the people who built along and built with his model. So the My Build that we'll be doing once a month is going to be for everybody on the show. And just whatever model you're building, whether it's a kit, whether it's scratch built, whether it's complete, non-complete, that's what we want to see. Do you have to talk and show and do a lot of presentation? No, we just need a photo and some kind of a caption for the photo. Will we put it on our website? Absolutely. Will you get credit for it on the website? Absolutely. Because this is sharing. That's what this is all about. That's what this whole segment was meant to be. Let's see what everybody is building. Let's talk about them if we want to, and let's go from there. So Jeremy, thank you so much, and look forward to the July 24th program to see how many people actually show up. I know that you have some, and I hope that you have a whole lot. So thank you so very much for this. Also, we've got a form on our website. If you've got a modeling question, all you have to do is fill out the form. It's fairly easy to do, and I'll try to get you an answer. We have one segment that's going to be tonight that's based on a question that we got from a modeler on a forum like this. Nick Santo is the one that's going to do it. The modeler wanted somebody that's showing how to solder track feeder wires. And Nick was kind enough to say that he was interested in doing that for us. So you'll see that later. But I hope other people who have modeling questions, if you'll just ask us, we'll try to accommodate you the best way we can. In going back to the build along just a minute, we have two coming up that I want to mention. We've got Martin Breckville, MMR, who's doing the Leadville Designs kit of a maintenance of way car. Martin starts that build on September the 22nd. Now, Leadville is going to give a 10% discount off the cost of that model for the time period August the 15th through September the 30th. So if you want that kit, that would be the time frame that you need to buy the kit in, and you need to mention that this is new tracks in your order, and you'll get the 10% discount. Then Jim Murphy on the 11th of September is building another LaBelle kit, and he's building the LaBelle business car. Rick is given a 25% discount on that kit, but you have to mention new tracks when you order it in order to get the 25% discount. Rick has really been nice to us in trying to cooperate and support this program. So I hope a lot of you will consider the build along with Jim Murphy this September. And now I'd like to turn to Ted Becker for our quick tip of the evening. So Ted, welcome. Thank you so much for doing this.
Well, good evening. Let me get the screen shared. Okay, this is going to be a relatively short one. What you see are $2 worth of stuff from Dollar Tree. the containers are quart storage containers with screw-on lids. They're 2 for $1. I found out that you screw the lid on and they are airtight. So you can store stuff like tie stain in them and it doesn't evaporate. So what I do to stain ties is I have the container about half full of my tie stain mixture, which is mostly just highly diluted craft paint. I dump my ties in there. I screw the lid on very tight. I very carefully shake it up, let it soak for as long as I want. Take the lid off, and then I just carefully pour it through the strainer, which cost me $1 at Dollar Tree. Pour it into the other container. Let it drip a little bit, and then I dump my the ties out on a sheet of newspaper and spread them out and let them dry. It's very slick. The whole system costs $2, and it works quite well. And that's the tip for tonight.
No, thank you so very much, sir. By the way, if anybody else has tips that they'd like to share with all of us, if you'll contact either Ted or Paul Thompson, who are in charge of running the quick tips part for the show, then they'll take your information and get you scheduled for when you might be able to do one. So, you know, it's not just Ted having to do all this by himself. If you have some tips that were important for you that you think you want to share with us, please give Ted or Paul an email and we'll go from there. Well, now I'd like to turn to our special segments. And the first one up is something that I'm really interested in. It's card modeling. I've never done any until fairly recently, probably a year or so ago. I found out about it and got interested and started writing some articles about it. One of the first modelers I found that people said, oh, you've got to talk to him, was the gentleman you're going to meet shortly. Dave Rarig is doing a build along of one of Paul Egri's card models. Paul has designed all of the card models that I've used in all of my articles, and he's got a real knack for what he considers not an original necessarily design, but what he considers a kit bash design. And I really think that you're going to enjoy this. And Dave, I can't thank you enough for taking the time and going to the trouble of doing this for us. I think this is going to be a real education for a lot of people to see just how beautiful card models can turn out. So welcome.
Well, thank you, Jim. Those of you who have been around this community, modeling community, for as long as I have, which is about 50 years, give or take a few, probably started out building models with card, even if you got a kit. I can remember early on getting I think it was a fine scale miniatures Craftsman kit, and part of it was wood, but a lot of it was real heavy card material. But in about 2005, a company started up called Clever Brothers, and they're now known as Clever Models. And they did something different that I had never really seen. In fact, I didn't come across them until quite a bit after they had been in business, whereby they take a photograph and they turn it into what they called a texture that you could print onto paper or cardstock, if you will, and create a structure using. Resulted in my taking a totally different direction this turn in terms of modeling with cardstock. So I prepared a little bit of a introduction here, and then a little video when I started the construction of the model that Paul designed. He actually didn't design a model, though. We'll get into that a little bit later. I prefer to call his designs just exactly that. It's a design. No different than if you were going to make a painting or something like that. It's a design. But it remains up to the modeler to actually turn that design into a structure that they can put on their layout. So I'm going to share my screen. Well, first I'm going to start this. And we're going to get a slideshow. Okay, now how do I get this smaller so I can share my screen? This isn't working so good. All right, here we go. Can you guys see this?
Nope.
Nope. Okay. And I'll go back. I'll end the show. And how do we share this screen now, guys?
Do you see a green share screen
Right.
button? Click
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And then you should have a window that pops up.
Oh, there it is. Okay. All right.
You should see different windows. One of them should have the screen you want to share.
Yep. Which is this right here. It's a PowerPoint presentation. Now click on that.
Or double.
Actually, no, you don't.
Okay. Can everyone see this now?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Of course, now it's not going to work this way. Well, we'll just do it one at a time.
Hey, click down at the bottom on the slideshow mode. Over right up a little. Oh, no, to your left. To your left.
Shadow.
No, the next line up. The next line up of stuff farther to your left. The one that
There.
looks like a screen right there. Click on that.
There.
See.
There
There
we
you go.
Okay. All right. So we're going to go back to the previous. Modeling with paper. How to make great looking structure models for your train layout. And the first screen is what type of paper? Well, you can probably use just about any type at all. But I like to print on plain cardstock, either 110 pound or 65 pound. And you want to use the widest and smoothest that you can find. Secondly, you can use a coated presentation paper, sometimes called a matte photo paper. How am I going to do this? It says, please move this window away from the shared application. Can't see how to do that. Okay, and then you can also use glossy photo paper, which I use for printing windows. And I use a heavy paper for a backing material. This is a mixed media from Strathmore. This watercolor paper here is 300 grams per square meter, 300 GSM. It mics out to about 20 thousandths of an inch thick. This photo here has a couple assorted different kinds of papers that I use. This bottom, you can't make it out, but it's actually a corrugated cardboard that's about 2 millimeters thick. I've used that on some of my scale scenes models. Up here, we've got some plain chipboard. This is part of a pretzel box. It's a chipboard, but it's printed. So these are all materials that you can use to back up your print that you get out of your printer. Here's listed as a task board. Now, task board is something that I started using a couple of years ago. It's kind of a unique product. It has, it's a wood fiber product that is rolled and pressed into a sheet. It's available in a couple different thicknesses. I like it because it has a tendency to not warp when you make a building with it. I use it for backing and chipboard, which is what you'll see me using later. The heavy 300 gram per square meter paper, which is like watercolor paper. You can also use just cardstock that you folded up into a brace, if you will. A foam core board. Most of you guys that model in O scale and S scale, I'm sure have probably used this product. You could just use plain old corrugated cardboard if you want to. And then you could also use balsa, sheet stock, or strips. These are some of the tools that I use for measuring. Pretty simple. Steel straight edge here, and I do use a caliper occasionally to measure the thickness of the paper I'm using, a little square. Scale rule. And probably one of the important things is the backing self-healing pad that you see here behind it, because you're going to be using that all the time. These are my cutting tools, plain ordinary scissors, a snap-off 9mm knife, and X-Acto number 11, and X-Acto chisel blade. These are what I call scribing tools, even though there's only one that's a scriber, that's this one. That's a Starrett sheet metal scriber. This is an embossing tool right here. I bought from Blick Artist Supplies. This is a burnishing tool. I believe I bought it from Micromark. It's made by Excel. Comes with different end pieces that you can fit in here. Some of them are a ball shape. This one's kind of a spoon shape, and I use that all the time. Forming tools, if you're going to make cones, I just turn these, sanded them down, a couple of pieces of dowel. Assembly tools, various tweezers, forceps. More assembly tools, I use some rollers. These are paper clamps. They come in real handy for making folds in narrow pieces of paper, just like a press brake, if you will. These are some of the glues that I use. A lot of different variety here. These are some of the particulars. I use Aleene's tacky glue for assembly. It's a white glue, but it's real thick, heavy. I use Elmer's glue stick for small sheet laminating. I use Gorilla spray glue or 3M glue or whatever for large sheet laminating, like if you're going to do a whole 9x12 sheet or 8.5x11 sheet. I use a gel type CA glue for attaching small detail parts. And I use thin CA glue for thin section reinforcing and closed joining. What do I mean by closed joining? Well, if you have two pieces of paper that you're trying to put together and you cannot get in there to press them together with glue between them, I'll just take CA and I'll run it along where the two come together, and that'll wick in by capillary action. It'll also soak into paper and make a very tough, almost plastic-like. I bought some glue from Micromark. It's liquid pressure-sensitive adhesive. That works for instance, or frames to clear acetate, because you put it on the paper and let it dry, and then you can just put it on your acetate, and it doesn't ooze out, doesn't smear, doesn't run all over everything else. Works really well. You can also use canopy glue for doing the same thing, except this goes on wet. It has a tendency to perhaps smear out on your clear window. So I like to use the PSA. Rocket card glue is something you're unfamiliar with. A company called Deluxe Materials in England makes it. It works very similar to CA glue, except it's made specifically for card modeling. It sets up very quickly. You use a very small amount. I have a tendency to use too much of it, just like I probably do with the CA, so it makes it hard to set. So I don't use it a whole lot, but it is available. Next thing is how to choose your design. You can go to published vendors or maybe make your own. And we're going to use the design that my friend Paul Egri made. This is his drawing plate number 1. This is the end balls and some detail parts. This is plate number 2. These are the side walls. And plate number 3, which is the roof and some extra windows and some vents, which I'm not going to use. I know where these came from, and I've tried putting them together before, and they are a pain in the butt. So a couple domestic or a couple online sources where you can download models, Clever Models, Scale Scenes, which is British, Team Track Models. They don't have a wide selection, but they do have some nice models. 3DK, which is another British outfit. Modelbuildings.org has some designs. Digcom Designs, which are primarily trailers for tractor trailer rigs and some accessory items, containers, container boxes. And there are quite a few other sources that I haven't mentioned here. Make your own design? Well, I use a program called Model Builder. It's published by Evan Designs. I think it costs about $40, maybe $50 for the download. And I use that when I want to design a building rather than use one of Paul's. Paul uses Microsoft, what do they call it? Paint, I guess, program that he designs on. You could also use very sophisticated design programs that are on the market, but I don't. They're kind of expensive. You can also use digital photos that you've taken on site of an actual building. And then you can correct for camera tilt or any other items that you want to edit out. Perhaps you got a wire or something hanging across the photo that you don't want on your finished building. You can edit those out using photo editing software on your computer. And you can also use Google Earth images downloaded to your computer, and you can edit them and adapt them just like any other photograph in a photo editing program. Okay, so these are some models that I've built in various scales. One of the big advantages of card modeling like this, when you do it on the computer, is you can make it any size you want, basically. You can take the design and by using your printer or a program like Photoshop or something like that, you can increase the size or decrease the size. These are some clever models that were designed for HO scale that I built. This is a Gory water tower from the Gory and Defeated fame. This is a freebie that they had. It's a little trailer shack. By the way, these are all paper now. I might mention that. Even this pipe here and ladders, these are all constructed from cardstock paper. These are some O-scale models that Clever Models had designed, called the Branch Line Depot, this one. And they're creaky roofing. These were actually kits that were downloaded from the internet. It's going to be tough to see in this picture, but this creaky roofing, I went all out. I actually put rows of shingles on here. I glued over. These clapboards are overlapped. So if you got up close to it, it's actually got the texture of clapboard siding. You would be hard pressed to tell this from a wooden Craftsman kit. And by the way, there's absolutely no paint on these anywhere. This is just all print as it comes off your computer printer. And here's some assorted Clever Models O-scale buildings I did. Trying to show you some versatility of what different styles and types of models you can build. This central camera building, I installed lighting. You can see it coming through the front windows, and also the sign is backlit so that the letters show up really good. It just looks like a regular lighted sign. Again, everything is paper. Here's a couple of Paul's designs, HO. This one I call Maze Diner. This is quite an assembly. Some of it is derived from Clever Models kits that he modified. The stairway is from a different Clever Models kit that I modified manually. The sign I designed on, oh, I'm not sure, but I think it was Microsoft Word. I did a long, long time ago. And I just decided to use it on this building. These picnic tables I took offline from a guy in Australia, designed them in O-scale, and I reduced them in size and printed them up for HO. And then we just kind of put everything all together and came up with something that sort of looks like a diner. This general mercantile that Paul did is kind of the same way. He did the basic design of the building, but I added a chimney and I added the fence, put it on a base, used some Clever Models, concrete sidewalk textures for it. Just shows you what can be done. This is a mine that I built in for HO and air gauge, HON 30, called a Lost Creek. There's more to it. There's actually a mine shaft that connects on this end to the tipple. Doesn't show in this picture. And this is Paul's Mount Allegheny Freight House. Inside story on that, right, Paul? These are some N-scale designs. Paul did a 2-story yellow farmhouse. His design did not include this chimney. I kind of swiped that from a War Games design that I reduced in size and made it N-scale. Paul did this Glenwood Yard boiler house N-scale. We kind of collaborated on this. He did some of it, I did some of it. This Union Grove brick and tile. Here, the only thing that isn't paper, believe it or not, is this dome shape on top of the brick kiln. I cast that using some wood putty, I think it was, or that wood dough. I made a little mold and poured that in and made that, but the rest of it's all paper. There's a goat milk dairy. Again, it was a Paul design and N-scale. I call these scratch designs. This is probably the most elaborate one I did. This I did for a friend who is now living in Panama City, Panama. It's a replica of the Green River, Wyoming Amtrak station. I designed this in the model builder program. It's very much selectively compressed, but he only had so much space to work with, so I made it to a certain size. Carolina Casting. This was well thought of by Clever Models, enough so that they actually used it and made a kit for my design. This is at East Broad Top Blacksmith Shop. The line pattern I got from someplace online. I bought it. And you can actually place the line drawing over top of the textures from Model Builder. The roofing material is from Clever Models, one of their textures. So this is again kind of a cross breed, if you will. I did the basic design in Model Builder, but I added Clever Models textures to it, make it look nicer. The Stuckum Glue Works. This was a design that was originally done by Mr. E.L. Moore. He had a lot of buildings in Model Railroader and Railroad Model Craftsman years and years ago. Used to call them dollar models. And he built them out of balsa wood primarily and paper. So here I'm kind of reliving that, if you will. These are some designs they did in N scale. This one here is a little different. This one, I actually took a Google Street View image of a building that's in the area of the layout that I'm constructing, okay? It's near Reading, Pennsylvania. And in the Google, I used the actual signs that were on the building and printed them out, cut them out, pasted them on the front of a building that I designed in Model Builder. Some of the roof appliances here, ACs and so on, those were from other various downloaded kits that I have because I mix and match. I pull pieces and parts from all over. Jenkins valve, this is pretty much a total scratch design. This assemblage of buildings here, I called Yingling Brewery. It's actually on a T-track module that I made. There's the main brew house. There's an old brew house here. This is a malt house. There's a power plant in the back, but you can't see it. This is a stack from it right here. This is a warehouse and bottling plant. And this is a modified Clever Models grain elevator. This kit here was from Scale Scenes. This was a scratch design. That was a scratch design. And this was a scratch design. And there's also a little tiny office building right here. It's a scratch design. This gives you an idea of the actual size. Here's a bottling plant sitting next to the actual bottle of beer.
Dave,
Yeah.
I hate to do this to you, but we've got other things that we've got to cover tonight.
All right.
So can you kind of wrap this up when you get at a stopping point, and then we'll continue it next time?
I will. I'm just about done with this part of it, Jim.
Okay, thank you.
I just want to show here that you can take any design and print it up with any scale. This is printed at about 1/250th scale, slightly smaller than Z scale. This I took a Clever Models design and printed it. I don't know. I don't even know what scale it is. It's sitting on a quarter. Okay. I made this using just plain ordinary typing paper. These are some N scale Clever Models designs. These windows here are printed on glossy photo paper. So I want you to see how glossy they appear. Looks like glass. Okay, that's it. Next week, when we get into the actual construction, I have some videos that I'll be presenting. They take about 15 minutes each. Any other questions?
Dave, I can't thank you enough. I think you really covered the spectrum of what's possible with card modeling. I've seen other of your models and they are just truly outstanding. And I agree, what you can accomplish with card modeling, people would be hard pressed to tell it from a Craftsman wooden kit. So thank you so very much for starting this series and looking forward to the one for next week.
Okay.
Thank you. Now I'd like to turn to Andy Kenney for Andy's Up Corner. Andy, welcome.
Thanks, Jim. Well, I was blown away by those paper models. The very last one with the using the gloss paper for windows, that was worth watching the whole thing right there. So very good, Dave. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Let me go to share screen. Okay. All right, tonight is the exciting world of car cards. So for operations, car cards have been around a long time. Some people think they're kind of passé with the electronic, or I should say computers and the switch lists and the programs and that, but there's still a lot of people using car cards and waybills. And I think I told you in the past, I started out using a computer-based program, ProTrack, and I really liked it. And the last thing I wanted to do was ever use car cards, because I had used them a few times at different model railroads doing operations, and I did not like them. And I did not want to have to deal with the car cards and the waybills individually in that. But over time, I learned to love the car cards and waybills operating on certain layouts around here in Michigan. And then the owner or the designer, developer of ProTrack passed away all of a sudden. And we had some issues with it because my railroad was so big. It worked very good for smaller railroads, and there's still people using it. And it's a free program now. They were paying a few $100s for it when Jim passed, but his wife gave it to us to use as it was. And they've even got a website, ProTrack, if you're interested. However, car cards, like I say, have been around a long time, and there's different variations of them, but basically it ends up, they all do the same thing, and they have the same basic information. So we'll go through this, the various versions, as I was saying. And what I did was I went online, I Googled images for car cards and waybills, and I pilfered some off the internet to show you, just to give you some ideas and thoughts. And what I'll do is take you through these and then end up with the ones that we're using on my railroad. So here is a basic car card. I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe this is Micromart. They do have one similar to this if it isn't this kind. And you'll see there's 2 or 3 different pictures here, different railroads, but they're using the same one. So it's got the basic information on the train. Oh, I'm sorry, on the car. This has not been completely filled out. It's return empty car to, and you usually write down in here where you want the car to go when it's empty. Now the waybills, there's different kinds of waybills. This one is a 2-part, but it could actually be a 4-part. You see the one down at the bottom and the 2 up the top. So for the first trip for this car, it would be flipped the other way. One would be at the top. It'd be sitting in here. You'll see a picture of that a little later. Sitting in here, and it'll give you all the information to get that car to the first destination. And then what you can do is take the waybill out and just flip it around. So now you got the 2 at the top. And when you put it in the pocket, all the 2 information showing up. And that's the second trip for the car. So it continues on the railroad. And when it gets there, you can actually go to 3 and then to 4. And then usually when it hits 4, you pull the card or the waybill out and you read this information here, wherever the car is supposed to go to. That's where they send the car without a waybill. Okay, just another copy of the same basic car card. You can see they hand print them in. Some don't look too bad, but some can be kind of hard to read. This is the Waybill number 3 you can see up here. So apparently this is a 4-sided. And there's more information that should be in here for directing the car to the location. Now these Waybills here, just a little different. So we'll walk through them real quick. At the top, it gives you the type of car, the railroad, the number, and the type of car for all 3. And this one, I'm not sure what the T stands for. Maybe somebody here does. We don't use it on my railroad, and I haven't seen it before. But it gives the information on how to get this car to this dealer. Let's see. Well, Shippers Amico, the receiver's barrel fuel and oil, and it's diesel fuel. And they also put a picture of the car, which can be nice. We didn't do that, but it can be nice for locating the car in a pile of cars in the yard. Here, empty car order. Now, this is used if you have a customer, a local customer, industry, whatever, and they need a car to fill, and then that car has to go somewhere. So you'll have a Waybill looks like this or similar to this, empty car order, and that car will be sent empty to the customer that needs it. When it's filled, you either put a new Waybill in or flip this one around. On mine, you just flip it around, and then that gives you the routing for that car to wherever it's going with the load. And then over here, the stock car, there is no Waybill, so it's an empty car and it's going to go west. By the way, if you have any questions as I go through this, feel free to stop me or put it in chat, and someone can call out the question for me if they would. Again, the same type of car card, and this one here is weigh in transit. So the railroad weighs the car at a scale, and then that's how they determine the cost to the customer for shipping that. And here again is another one with a 1. So there's at least 2 on this one. Okay, here's a different type of Waybill, and it's on one sheet of paper, and you can see it's been folded. And it's got 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So this one they use a clear, it could be a baseball card pocket, a business card pocket, but you can see the car card sits in there. And that stays with the car, and it stays in the pocket, or stays in the plastic pocket. And then the Waybill just sits down in the pocket and leaves the information on the car and the information you need to get the car to its destination. What's nice about this, you can see it's all printed out. Some you'll see they're handwritten, and they can be a little hard to read, especially when they're small and you're trying to put a lot of information. Here it again, the folded one you just saw. Here, each type of car has its own color: box car, a hopper, tank car, an LP pulpwood rack car. But it gives you all the information you need. A different type of car card with pictures and different colors. But you can see here it's harder to read because it's hand written in there, but sometimes they get old, they don't show up as well, the printing and that, so it can cause you some problems. Again, another type, they like their pictures and the information on the car, and then the Waybills that can be turned. You can see the different numbers here that you can rotate them. And then this is just an overall picture of a handful of cars that might be in a train, and they just kind of set them out so you could read them, you could see them. Okay, now on my railroad, Nashville Road, the car cards and Waybills that we decided, Jack Ozanich, was, some of you might know him, he became a good friend before he passed, and I operated with him quite a bit. And he's the one that I got familiar with the car cards. Operations Roadshow, who also operated with Jack a lot, they had a really good program, and they had their traveling railroad that you probably saw if you went to the conventions. And I basically used what Jack and the Operations Roadshow uses. Now it's a bit larger card, but we don't find that a problem, and it works out well for us. And I'm just going to walk you through that. So the car is, or the card for the car, it stays with the car, of course. It's hard to see, but there's a plastic pocket over this part here. And you can see the plastic pocket a little better, and a piece of tape sits over there. So we've got the information on both sides. So whether you're holding it up on end or this way, you can read the information on the car, type of car, the railroad. It's a box car and box car code and the length of the couplers. And then when there's no waybill in here, it tells you where the car is supposed to be returned to. And TS is a code on our on the Nashville Road for the modeled portion of the railroad. TS means this car is going off the south end of the railroad, traffic south. So it'll be placed on a train going south. And up here you can see it's a 3x5 card. Okay, so the card, you've got your information. Actually, I walked you through this already, so there's no reason to do this. Let's go to the waybill, a little more interesting. So the waybill is 2x3, and all these were printed out in Word, and then we cut them all out. A friend of mine, Ron St. Laurent, did all the work on that. He got the information from Operations Roadshow guys, and they helped us get it set up. Then Ron expanded a little bit from that and did a really nice job. So first of all, type of car, and this type is a XM. It's either going to be a load or it's going to be empty, one of the two. Now station L1, the coding for any station, and station we mean any location that a train works. So any station across the railroad, the first one on our railroad, L1, L meaning local on the railroad, and one is the first station you're gonna get to when you come out of Bowling Green at the north end of the railroad, which is staging and onto the railroad. So Guthrie, Tennessee is L1. And then the consignee, the customer that it's going to, is spot 45. So each station has spot numbers. So this gets you to the town or to the location of the customer, and this tells you where that car's going. Here it shows you it's being routed on the Nashville Road. That's Chicago, Indianapolis, Nashville, and Southern. Sometimes you'll have 2, 3, 4 railroads there if they have to route that across the country. It's coming from Lake Charles, Louisiana, and it's being shipped by Benson Steel Supply Company, and it's steel plating. At the bottom here, when they spot the car at the customer, they set the car card in the set-out pocket, and I'll get in more into that at a later date in operations. And also, the only people that mess with the waybills in the card pockets are the agents. I'm an agent. I might have 2 or 3 other people helping me. We do that between op sessions, updating. So they don't have to flip the waybills or do anything when the crew doesn't. They just deliver the car. So here we have a car that it's empty to go to Guthrie, L1, spot 50, Westbrook, and it's empty for load. So when the car gets to Westbrook Manufacturing and they load it up, now that card is flipped and it now is a load. It's got steel cabinets. It's going to Buffalo, New York, Ace Building Supply. It goes Nashville Road, B&O New York Central, and it's coming out of Guthrie, Tennessee, Westbrook Manufacturer. And up here, TN is traffic north. So this car is going north off the railroad or off the layout, the modeled portion. And Spot is the Nashville Road staging. There's up north, there's B&O staging and Nashville Road staging. So this just means it's going to be placed on a Nashville Road train. If it says B&O, then a B&O train would take it. So it would be sent to the B&O yard and on a B&O train. And here, let's see. I'm not sure what I wanted to point out on this one. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I do. Okay. You have a lot of overhead traffic, cars going from the north to the south or vice versa. They don't do anything on the railroad. It's really across the railroad. And we've made up a bunch of these waybills for each type of car. And if you want to fill out a train, say you've got a train that only has 10 cars going to customers on the railroad, but you'd like to have 25, 30 cars. So you're going to have a large block of cars that are going from one end of the railroad to the other. And those will get a waybill like this. So say it's up at North End, it's in Bowling Green staging being built. I'll put a whole block of cars, maybe 15 cars, and they'll all say TS, traffic south. And they'll be in a block, they'll all be together, and they'll be kept that way all the way across the railroad and into the staging at south end of the railroad. And this is the opposite side of that card. So you can flip it over, go one direction, let's say south, and flip it over to go north. Now, the reason this is nice is instead of having to go back and find a new waybill each time for these OV traffics, you can just take that card, flip it, leave the car right on the train. If you want, you've got that option. So you're not having to put all new cars on the train. And these trains only show up every couple of months on my railroad. So the time for those trains to go across takes quite a while, and you don't remember what cars are on what train. Okay, so here, this is just showing the Milwaukee road car, the information and the waybill. That's what you'd be working with. It gives you more information there. And same with this one in the yard. So this one, Western Maryland, this is traffic south. So let's see what traffic south is. Okay, it's going to Meridian, Mississippi. It's coming from Detroit. So it's going all the way across the railroad. So it'll stay in a block of cars, any other cars at traffic south, and they'll be worked as a block at each yard. And here you can see on track 6 in the yard, these are all traffic south cars. So they're going to be worked as a block. Waybill storage, I won't spend much time here. Basically, you've got to be able to store the waybills in such a way that you can grab the waybill you need as you need them. So everybody's got their own version, but you see, basically, they have some kind of a file that this one here looks like it's types of product. I don't know if they all are. It's pulpwood, wood pulp. I'm not sure what all these are. It's kind of hard to read. Now mine are based on locales, each location. So at Guthrie, L1 that we were talking about earlier, L110 is the first customer. Then behind that, you can just see a 15 or partial 15, L115, and it goes right on up to the last customer. So, and I'll get more into this at a later date when we're talking about operations. The battery boxes are just kind of hold these in place so they don't float all over the place. Here's what they're showing you, L1. There's Adam, the next town. Actually, the third town, and the fourth town, Adam and Guthrie, interchange. And that's it. So I hope I didn't bore you too much. Is there any questions?
Well, I can't thank you enough for doing this for us, Andy. I know that some people are not doing operation right now, but I think that your segments that you're showing us give an idea of what can be accomplished in a small small layout, and I really do appreciate you doing this.
Oh, you're welcome. I'll just keep at till you guys kick me out.
That won't happen.
All right, thank you.
This is Kris Blackman. And Kris, I really do appreciate you doing this. Thank you so very much. And I'll turn it over to you, sir.
Okay, well, thank you, and welcome to the newest edition of the Build Along series here. And I'm trying to get this screen share going. And for some reason, Ed, it's just got you up here. Rat poison.
Why don't you unshare and start over?
Okay, I've got her. Yeah, I've already started the reprocess here. And hopefully you guys have a full screen of the Sandbox Series Session 1.
Yes, we do.
All right, well, this is going to be the first actual session, and we're going to start in on building a small miner shack. This one's kind of a basic overview. We're going to be looking at the general board-by-board construction, a peeling paint technique, and carving of some plaster. This introduction right here is kind of a introduction to when I will create the index. You will see something very similar to this. The index will become very handy when we get into 4 or 5 builds. I'd like to step out of the normal presentation here just a bit to let you guys know that this particular presentation of this build is going to be a little bit more detailed than my other presentations. This one's going to provide a documentation style that I'm going to kind of go through and show you how I will be displaying tips, hints, and additional information in the detailed build documentation. Again, I will be providing to the webmasters a index that will be of great value in identifying a technique or construction material that will come in handy when we're 4 or 5 builds down the road. This presentation is going to show some of the basic building techniques. My builds start with a more basic and then grow to a more advanced. And I have 2 different styles of documentation depending on if we're using more basics or more advanced styles. I'll bring up the more advanced style documentation when it becomes appropriate. The future Watch My Build presentations will be more just a highlight of the overall build process, just bringing out the important components and techniques that are presented in the detailed information. This overall presentation, though, is going to go into a little bit more detail than I usually will provide. Now, all of my documentation will start out with a general build information. I will be providing the scale and the source from where the plans are provided. Brief introduction into the build. I will then provide the build goals. They are almost always 3 to 5 in number. I always have build goals that I focus in on that particular build of ideas or techniques or of coloring that I want to try out and experiment with and present in that individual build. So this small cabin, we'll be looking at a base weathering. Here we're looking at using Chuck Doan's weathering technique, and I'll get into a little bit further just in a bit. We're also going to be looking at peeling paint using a resist and a acrylic paint. This technique is a technique to present a very basic chipping technique that provides a broad exposed surface areas with rough edges to the paint, showing that the paint may be lifting off of the surface that it is on. We're also going to be covering stone carving and coloring, and then some basic construction. I will almost always in my references, or excuse me, in my documentation, then have a section of references. Right now, I have yanked all of the reference section out, and I am not providing that. I have about 10 to 15 years worth of references that I primarily used on railroad-line.com. That forum has been taken down temporarily. If that forum does not come back in the next 6 weeks or so, then I'll be identifying new references to support what I am doing, so that you'll be able to get other ideas on possible ways to approach a given technique or tool or process. I will then, in all my documentation, go into the build goals. We will, in this particular one, be looking at the base weathering. As I said, Chuck Dones is what we're looking at here. I will be showing the paint using, acrylic paint using a resist for peeling paint and some stone carving. And then we get into the actual build of this model. The HO scale board by board over a matte template. Here is the first detail that you're going to pick up from me. As I expressed earlier, I will give you information on all my tools, materials, everything that is utilized. So here you're seeing that I'm using the Crescent mat board. I'm giving you all of the information that you need. Should you need to go out and purchase that exact item if you're interested in it, or find something similar. The basic construction will also include a roof that is shingled, one window that is covered over with boards, and then a plaster Paris foundation and chimney, which you can see are completed here. The next thing that I will go into is the actual start of the build. Templates are almost a necessity for all builds. And in this particular build, they become the substrate on which the siding is applied to, because we're doing board by board. As I started out, this will have a mat board with 2 washes of medium alcohol ink solution applied. As I don't have my reference sections going, the documentation, until I have that references going, will include details on any mediums or any things that I use off on the side. If I come down and use the tool, normally those tools are also in a reference section on where to obtain them, or a similar type tool that you could use. Here I'm just using the True Sander in this one. I also sometimes in the creation of my models will create extra pieces. If I'm creating extra pieces, I will make a note of that so that you know that you would have a opportunity to practice something off on a piece that you've got there, that you've got duplicate pieces, or to avoid confusion that you're cutting pieces to say like a siding of a building, and all of a sudden you have 4 sides instead of the 2 expected sides. We then will continue with this build, and I go into the siding and the actual weathering and coloring of the siding. I'm going to provide you with the material that I'm using. And in this case, I'm using the Kapler HO scale 2x8 and 3x8 strips of wood. Now, if you don't have 3x8 strips of wood, not a problem. Go out and grab yourself a little bit of S scale 2x6 or something like that. The point here is to get a little bit of variation in your wood, because that is going to give you a much more realistic looking siding. The same thing goes if you're building this in O scale and you don't happen to have 3x8s in O scale. Again, drop down to a smaller size S scale. My point here is don't be afraid to mix your scales. In this thing, as we're coloring the wood, this part in blue shows where one of the tricks to doing weathering is the layering of multiple applications of color and patience. And that's what I want to draw to your attention here. Here we're using 2 applications of silver wood. Then it's necessary to use a sanding pad to lightly sand it and then add another application of silver wood. All of these things will affect your coloring. I also then go down to doing knot holes, and I'm bringing in another company here, something that you're probably not thinking of, Noodler's ink, but I'm using a non-waterproof ink, in this case, a Kiowa Pecan. But the idea here is to use other inks and make your own solutions for coloring. And then I go down here into the actual coloring of the strip wood and the process to create the lifting of the paint. I instruct you to flood the strip wood with the resist. Then we're going to give it a few moments to dry. Then we're going to come back with some painter's tape to remove it. I will then go through and explain to you how to add your siding to the substrate. In this case, I've got to stop a moment and say for this particular build, I was using a oddball camera that is not my own, so my pictures are not as good as I normally are. I don't expect that you can see it on your monitors right now, but should you download the files when I provide them to the website, the nail holes that I'm referencing are actually right in here. But this gives you an idea of how I will provide you detailed information. Here I'm doing individual knot holes with a straight pin held in a pair of hemostats. I will then provide you with a good picture of the detailed coloring of the coloring technique that we're using. In this case, you can see that there's broad boards that have no coloring and some with paint coming off, and then some that are fully colored. Sorry here. I will then provide you with a overview so that you kind of have a feel for what we're trying to go for. And then I will do in-build evaluations. I will give you ideas of maybe a stronger tape or a drying time to help you troubleshoot if you're having problems. If you're not liking your coloring, I'll give you options for coloring. Here, I forgot to use the tier graining around the knot holes. That's something you might want to add. I am stressing that the first goal was the base coloring and the using of 6 to 8 color applications. And the light sanding is important in between those. If I see anything at a build evaluation that I feel that I really made a large error on, I'll also bring it up and bring it to your attention and offer solutions that you may want to apply. We're going to continue with the build here, and here we're getting in, and as we're focusing in on the weather, we're looking at the joint between the upper boards and the lower boards, and I'm going through in detail explaining how to apply these and color these. If I have a technique that I use that I think is very important for you to notice, I will bring it up with a great big heads up sign here in the form of a tip. I did leave this in here on this particular build. If somebody has the Rusty Stumps file on the how-to articles for Mike C's stain recipes, if they could supply it to me, I'll get it added to the website here. Mike C has long passed, And Rusty Stumps, when they sold it, they did not carry this over. And I can go to Rusty and try to get the file, but I'm trying to locate it outside of Rusty's right now. And that kind of brings us up to the tail end of this presentation here. Again, the documentation files have not been supplied to New Tracks yet. That is purely on me. I've had a couple of things going on the past few days which have taken me away from my modeling. And I am just quite frankly behind in supplying New Tracks with that information. And I also want you to remember that knowledge is power. And the more power you have, the more knowledge you have, the more comfortable you will feel in trying out new build techniques. But always go ahead and build something small. You can use it in the background, and that will give you the opportunity to expand your toolbox of techniques and further enjoy our hobby. So with that, I will see everybody next time unless there's some questions.
Kris, I think you did a great job. I really do appreciate it. I like very much what you're doing. And when you get the material ready for the website, you need to send it to Ken. And Ken will be able to get it posted on our website in the right place for us. Thank you so much, Kris. Look forward to you next time. Now I'd like to turn to Dave Silvernail. And Dave is going to talk about water. Dave, welcome.
Thanks, Jim. Let me get this started. Somewhere in the middle of this mess. Same problem he did. All right. Try this again.
Just so you don't feel bad, it took me 3 shots.
I don't know what this. May take me more than 3 shots.
Are you trying Phil's way?
I'm trying to get out of where this is to get to my
Yeah, the great thing is when you have glasses, you can kind of half see the screen.
kind of, yeah. I can't even find the stop share button on it right now.
You're not sharing.
Stop sharing.
You're stop sharing. Just go back to Zoom, click on
Okay.
Zoom and go back to Zoom. Okay, share your screen, but share the upper left screen, the one that says screen.
Right now, the Zoom is so small, I can't do anything with it.
Does it have a little button on the right that has like a little window and a big
Okay.
window and you can make it bigger?
I got out of there finally. Let's try this all again. There we go. Finally.
Ta-da!
Yeah, now if I can make this thing bigger. Okay, what you're looking at right here is the water feature I put on my module about 6 years ago. It's a little dusty on top, but that's all of about 1/8 of an inch thick. So what I've done here is I've put together a small piece to show you how to do it. I'm always in favor of doing small input section so you can, try something new.
Okay, this video is all about creating water on a flat space. What I use are the acrylic or tube acrylics, heavy bodied acrylics, and the gloss heavy gel acrylic. I start off with a black, which represents deep water. It's painted on kind of thick. No need to prime. Before that dries, I change to ultramarine blue. I actually blend into the black. Let the black take into the blue a little bit and just keep spreading it out. As you get close to the shore, I want it to lighten up. Missing a color, darn it. As you get closer to the shore, blue gets lighter. Okay, now that I allowed the paint to dry for about 14 hours, I'm going to apply some, I'm using the Mod Podge. It's the same thing as acrylic gloss gel. The Mod Podge is not quite as thick as the heavy gel. Easier to put on. Just apply some and spread it to anywhere from a 1/16 to an 1/8 inch thick. You can use a paintbrush, but I like using the a palette knife. That's what they call them. Even get a little bit up onto the dirt. And that's the application to it. Now I just got to let it dry. And this could take a couple days. Okay, at this point, it's about 9 hours after the application. The next time's at about 36 hours after the application. It's pretty much along, but still has a ways to go. The last shot's over 48 hours.
Little spot has not completely dried out yet. Okay. So that actually took a total of about between was it 72 and 96 hours to completely dry out and get clear. Now the Mod Podge I used is a medium gloss gel, a little easier to spread. The heavy gloss gel you can actually form waves and other things because it will stand up. So that is basically kind of still water. The next couple segments I will do a poured resin, and then we can also talk about the color of water, because water is clear and it's how the light reflects upon it. And so what you find a lot of Colorado scenery is a lot of greenish water, which is the effect of oxygen being mixed into the water. Any questions?
How do you decide whether or not to use resin or Mod Podge?
It all depends what you want to do. Resin, you can get a very glass-like finish on top. Mod Podge, you don't get that glass finish, but you can really simulate water that moves. It's all on what you want it to look like. I personally don't like the poured resin. You have to do a lot more to it to make sure it doesn't get away from you. Poured resin finds every little crack you've got, and next thing you know, you got a puddle on the floor. So there's pluses and minuses both ways. I like the Mod Podge or the clear gloss gel better, but everybody's got their own technique for it.
Well, yours sure looks nice to me, Dave. I really do appreciate it. Look forward to what you come back with next time.
Thanks, Jim.
Well, that's it for this evening. I appreciate everybody coming. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. Next time, July the 21st, as I said earlier, Walters is going to be our sponsor for that evening. And we're going to have a drawing of their $50 prize off of one of their in-stock items from their website. So I hope everybody will register and subscribe to our website before the end of day tomorrow, so that you'll be qualified to win. And I hope you'll come back and join us on the 21st. We've got some other special segments for you that evening that I think that you'll enjoy. So please visit our website, newtracksmodeling.com. Subscribe so that you can win the prize, and join us next time on the 21st for our next show. Thanks so much for coming this evening. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned something, and best of modeling to you. Thanks again.
All aboard. New tracks. All aboard.